country is being classified as one which is a third world nation and you're going to a first world nation, well, most people would presume to be immigrants or intending immigrants, and so that was the rule before Obama. Okay. Today, we sit here at a really pivotal point, and where we go from here is going to be what will set the direction of how the U.S. sees India from a standpoint of visa issuance. And I think the critical piece here is that just your presence here today is indicative of the importance that you give to compliance and ensuring that you do things correctly. But where we've had the disconnect over the last few years, and many of you will agree, is that the disconnect really has been in how the interpretations have occurred. So, for example, over the last 5 years, you have done your business a certain way. You have reformatted your business practices, your processes, your procedures, and even your employment strategy to ensure that the numbers of folks that you need over in the United States to remain competitive in the business that you're trying to grow in the U.S. and in India can occur. And the challenge has been that you can make all these major changes, and then all of a sudden one day, one small event, for example, one of your people who got a visa here gets turned down at the port of entry, or one of your people that got an approval gets turned down at the consular post, which doesn't even allow you to get to that port of entry situation. Or, worse yet, you apply at USCIS, and the petition is RFE'd and then denied, and you're scratching your head saying, but wait a minute, I've had 4,000 people, or 400 people, or 4 people, or 40 people that I have done previously, and I've had no problems. And this person seems to have the same kind of education, the same kind of job that he's going to, the same everything. What is going on? And that, I would suggest, is what this is about. And the hope that as we dialogue, we can somehow come up with a set of reliable processes and procedures and requirements that you can rely on and then create your business practices around so that you can ensure that your folks go overseas legally, properly, and with full compliance. And I think this afternoon and this morning you've seen a number of these issues come up where I think many of you, how many of you have had this type of an issue where you've sent people previously and then suddenly had a change in the interpretation? Can I see whether raise your hands? How many large companies, more than 10,000 employees, have seen that happen? Okay. The point I'm making is, if the large companies have seen it, the little ones and the medium-sized enterprises don't stand a chance. Because this is happening routinely, and I think the key with the start of the process right after Obama's visit is to really establish through NASSCOM and through various other entities a very strong regiment of ensuring that we start demanding of the leaders, if the rules are to be played fairly, let's be open about the rules, and let's make the system accessible to those who want to comply and who want to follow the rules. And I think Abigail will, I'm sure, chime in a minute here and tell you where the problems are. I think while we all have an intent to do the right thing, there are some in the crowd, and not in this crowd, but outside of here, that really have taken advantage of the rules. They have fabricated the process, or they've fabricated all of the documentation to make it appear as though their folks are going overseas or to the United States for a particular job. But what ends up happening is that the individuals then go there and become subject to the human trafficking aspect real problem. And we often think of human trafficking from a standpoint of lower paid individuals. But in today's human trafficking trade from India, what we're seeing a lot of is that some of these companies are really taking advantage of the rules, claiming to pay people and then having them pay from the back end half of the salary or 1/3 of the salary, pay the fees that are supposed to be paid by the companies. And those are the issues that are really driving many of the challenging situations that consular officers face. And having said that, I want to really the topic was really the Obama administration and what you might see coming up. And I guess I'm not even following this, so. but let me just kind of turn a little bit to a couple of points, and then I'll turn it over to Cynthia and to Abigail and Mr. Ishan Joshi for some comments. But just wanted to first just give you a couple of new developments that might cause you to have some concerns. First and foremost, there's been some key personnel changes recently at USCIS, which may kind of suggest the possibility that you're going to see some really unusual changes coming up in the next few weeks and months. The first one that was most important, and for me, I think it was a great move, was the head of the field operations section, which is like the top, you know the Neufeld memo. Neufeld's counterpart is Deborah Rogers, who was the field operations. Neufeld is the service center operations director. And she moved over to take on the deputy position at my former job, which was the CIS Ombudsman's Office, which is a separate agency outside of USCIS. Now, what does that mean? That means that something is going on there. My office is a very small office, and it's a separate agency, but this individual, who's one of the most qualified, has moved over to the CIS Ombudsman's Office. What it should tell you all is the CIS Ombudsman's Office may actually be able to help you now a little better than in the old days, because she is a real powerhouse that has moved over to be in the Ombudsman's Office. So that's something to take note of. The other one that just came out yesterday is the Chief Counsel for USCIS, Roxana Bacon, just put in her resignation yesterday, effective the end of the month. And so that is going to have a major, major change in terms of interpretation at USCIS. And that's a real critical piece. Some of this might be the result of some of the major shakeups that occurred this summer. This summer, Mayorkas, who was the director of USCIS, heard from the constituents. Many of your colleagues in the U.S. and others had complained to him through a number of different conferences that the California Service Center was not doing a good job. They were not processing applications in a timely way, not processing them with some sense of how, with reliability, if you will. And a whole series of different things culminated in the director moving two senior people out of, actually the director and the deputy director, out of those positions of the California Service Center, which many of you use for processing your H's and L's. And the result of that was that Senator Grassley filed a huge complaint with Director Mayorkas, claiming that he moved them for the wrong reasons and that he's compromising